So, how did you let me transition into that better.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons & Degrees. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And today we have a special guest. Special guest, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Travis Vengroff. You may know me as the sound designer, producer, dungeon master, etc. of Dark Dice, the horror podcast with occasionally Jeff Goldblum and others.
Yeah, we got you here, so you're one step away from everybody. Actually, no. Let me back it up, okay? As much as I would love to tell you that it's Jeff Goldblum I was like, yeah, that got me into Dark Dice. It didn't. Ooh. It's that you're one connection away from Ashley Birch.
Oh, Ashley Birch. They were also with us in Liberty Vigilance. They were one of the. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was super cool. That was insane. That was like even for me. That was very crazy because it's the first time I've ever brushed near fame before in this sort of sense.
Yeah, I've got Bunkers and Badasses right here under my table. She was my queer awakening.
Oh.
So there, that's it. That's really it. Sorry, Travis. We enjoy you. I enjoy you, but like.
No, that totally. I wouldn't listen for me. Actually, the first podcast I did, Liberty Vigilance, I was the DM and I cut my own voice out and replaced it with somebody else. Wayne June from Darkest Dungeon or the various Lovecraft books on tape that I'm a huge fan of, just so you wouldn't have to hear my voice. So I hold no illusions there.
But you do have a great voice. Like that's.
Thank
I
you.
don't know why there's anything other than like I have a great voice.
Well, as an editor, you
voice.
don't like hearing your own voice. It's like, it's me. I sound different than I think I sound. Slightly higher because whatever. But yeah.
That's why I do all the editing here. Alex absolutely hates it. I'm done with like the my voice. I'm like, yes,
exactly.
That's me again. I am laughing at the same bits I laughed at while I was recording. Just all the same things. This is just my job now.
Travis, tell us about Dark Dice.
Okay, Dark Dice is a horror podcast, actual play, audio drama, all the different things you want to say. We actually rolled the dice to tell what was going to happen. 7 adventurers go into the woods. One of them is not what they seem, as a doppelganger's infiltrated their midst. One of the players is not what they seem, and as they're being picked off one by the Silent One, do you seek him? We'll find out which one it is. And not even the players know. I'm an unreliable narrator, so it gets even worse. The players are getting weaker as time goes on instead of stronger. They're not heroic. It's like going into a haunted house. Not everyone's going to make it out, but we're all going to have a great time and get scared.
Amazing. I'm very interested in like the editing aspect because you produce these episodes like months at a time instead of like how most podcasts are just like weekly, but you put a lot into the soundscape. What, like, is it a whole team?
Oh, yeah.
Is it just you? How are things kind of divvied up?
We recorded the entire first season in 2 weekends, like many years ago. We didn't even release an episode till like 9 months after it came out, after we'd recorded, I mean. So the process has changed. The current process is we record. After we get the basic recording, I send it off to one of my friends, and that person just like cuts out all the dead time and the extra stuff and just makes it not have repetition of information. So it's just like shorter. It's the episode, but without the gaps and the laughs and any sort of off-topic discussions taking place, which there aren't many of. We're pretty on topic. That's step one. And that's like a couple hours of someone's time, usually 6 hours. So that's 6 hours of someone's life gone. They'll never get those hours back. And then goes to a transcriber, transcriptionist that I really like, and she does a wonderful job of just basically writing everything that we said down. And then I look at that transcript, and then I edit some words. And after I'm done editing those words, not like a lot of things, but we need like, we described someone getting stabbed. Perhaps they didn't emote in the moment to yell or scream. Maybe we could add some more intensity to the characters saying the same exact words, just re-recording it. Or like, there was a clock noise at this point because their cuckoo clock went off. They have to re-record that line. Mm-hmm. So it's locating those things and making it nice and dramatic. And then also if there's like large narrative bits that I sort of tell, like, you guys see this thing and it looks like this and it smells like this and this and this and this. I will kind of take those descriptions and say like, hey, Peter, who is a character on the show, Soren Arkwright, if you smelled this thing, like, what would you write? Or I'll just like write a description like, oh man, that smells terrible. It smells like sulfur down here. Ildrix, was that you? And like Ildrix like, no, but I smell it too. There's something here. And, you know, instead of me just saying like, it smells like sulfur.
Yeah. It's more in character than just the narrator doing everything to set the scene. It's the players being in the scene.
And let me clarify, they do a lot of that already, like a lot of that. But I try to remove myself from the story as much as I can. And then like for combat, it's all about cutting it down from like a 50-minute combat slog to no redundant information, people yelling stuff, and then like information of an entire round being condensed to less than 60 seconds with like some really brutal descriptions. And the characters did a great job describing like the things they kill and the things they're doing. I'm just recapping it. So instead of hearing like 7 people talking and describing something, it's just really sharp, quick, me with full intensity, what's happening. Then we add music. We've been writing the music for a long time. It's very intense. That's its own team of people, of which I'm the creative director. Cool. But like, there's a lot of people behind that making that happen, because we do have our own original soundtrack with Hurdy Gurdy and choir and orchestra and creepy lyrics in Infernal and Icelandic and German and other languages. But then I do the editing stuff after I get the retake lines from people. I'll edit it all together and add sound effects, because that's what I love doing. I do that with my day job on the White Vault podcast and Don't Mind, and other ones that we make for Fool and Scholar Productions. It's basically my wife and myself. And this is one of our shows, but it's not the most popular of those. It is not our bread and butter. So it's a monthly release, and whenever we can, between other things, I'll get an episode out on the 16th of every month.
So who's the Fool and who's the Scholar?
Oh, my wife got the degree, so she's definitely the Scholar. It's actually kind of a bit of a nod to how we met, playing a game of Werewolf, and I drew the Fool card, and that's sort of a little inside joke there. But I also do a lot of really foolish things, so it fits.
No, I'm here for a good love story. Like, listen, we've got a whole range of people.
Absolutely.
That's so sweet. It's amazing. Like, and it was really weird that I remember listening to the episode where you're talking about all of the music in the background. I was actually getting a tattoo at the time. It's totally fine.
Hopefully it's a good tattoo.
It's a very, listen, my full leg is Hal from Hal's Moving Castle. It's wild.
Ooh.
But I was actually having a conversation about somebody trying to learn Icelandic, which I was like, this is too uncanny. Because I was literally just listening about people singing in Icelandic and how it's hard to translate from English into Icelandic because it's not metaphorical, right? Is that right?
They're very literal. Icelandic also has the older texts have some really cool ways of describing things, and their rhyming schemes are alien to what we think of. They rhyme at the beginning of the word, not the end. So like, and that isn't something we've incorporated into the songs that are out yet, but I'm incorporating into newer ones that we're working on, because that's just like, Vikings were doing this, why aren't we? This is like the coolest thing ever. Like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but like every start of the word is the same letter or the same couple of letters and the same sound. Like, that is the coolest thing. I want to do more of that. So sorry, I interrupted you.
No,
and suffering tense.
No.
There's the suffering tense if you're
Listen.
causing like a sandwich to suffer by eating it.
I love that. No, you're never going to interrupt or get off track on this podcast. So whatever pops into your brain, it's welcome here.
Yeah, listen, we are very, whatever happens, right, Alex?
Perfect.
Yeah. We both also have dogs. So like,
I've got 2 dogs beneath me right now. We're dog sitting, but I also have Izo. So I can't really.
Can you describe these dogs, please?
There's a small white one. She's in a circle. Her name is Coco. She's delightful. Izo is double the size of Coco, about 80 pounds in U.S. weight. He is a sort of golden dog, looks, I guess, fawn-colored. Very, I don't want to say round, but he's built like a horse. He's very strong and very dopey with Charlie Chaplin eyebrows.
Oh my goodness.
Very
What
smart.
a good DM way of describing your dogs. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. What about you? Are they near you as well?
No, they're all downstairs.
Okay.
My spouse just got home and I heard them all gallivant down off of my bed into the
She's on
downstairs
the bed.
space.
She's laying on my towel.
4 dogs is too many dogs. I'm gonna stand on that until I die. 4 dogs, too many dogs.
I'm good with 1 or 2, and that's it. That's my limit.
We're watching 3
Should've.
this weekend. That's been pretty fun. But one's ours. The other 2 are pretty low maintenance. One of them's just like a queen. She sits in the little bed and doesn't really get up. I bring food to her.
Oh.
Love that.
Well, how did you find the show?
How did I find the show?
Yeah, I know.
How did you find the show?
Creep into your
That's a
podcast
question.
feed.
I heard an ad from one of the shows I listen to regularly. So
It works.
It was working.
Ha!
I don't, and I
Perfect.
can't tell you which show. Like it was
No problem.
definitely, it was something.
We do cross promo with a lot of people, so I'm glad you found us through one of the people that we like.
It was, I don't know. Let me pull up the list. I only have like 4 I listened to. So listen, it was gonna get there. I listen regularly to Join the Party, The Adventure Zone, Dungeons and Daddies. I also
Dungeons and
listen.
Daddies.
Maybe it was Dungeons. I don't know.
And Join the Party.
So it could have been multiple times, and it just leaked in. And honestly, I hate horror. I don't like anything spooky. I don't listen to body horror. I want to die. Even like Stranger Things is about my comfort level of like, okay, we could watch this and I'm okay with watching it. But anything stepping further out of Stranger Things, I hate it.
How are you listening to the show?
It's for this podcast here. I know other people like I know other people like horror. My spouse really likes horror stuff, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop being a baby, and I got through it. It's really not that bad though. The way that you describe a lot of the body horror things, I'm like, okay, it's like bad for like 2 seconds, and you're like, okay, it's really not gonna get any worse, and it doesn't get worse because there's just like, well, not for me, it doesn't get worse.
We're tasteful. We're tasteful.
It is. It's very good. It's very balanced. I really do. I like it. I definitely did not think that you were going to lose a character so soon.
I didn't either.
And now knowing that you played for 2 days, like, yeah, that makes sense.
It was a very big surprise that the dice just do what they do.
Nice.
That's how it rolls.
Which is wild. It repeated. That was like, and that every time, yeah. Anytime they re-rolled dice, I was like, no, stop it. You did it the first time and it did not work. Stop it. But you got to take that gamble, I guess.
Yeah, we nearly lost like the entire party at the end, but then we realized David was first time playing. He's Iasinski. He's like, oh, I was rolling the wrong dice. Let me try that again. That was a D4. I rolled a 4, but it was a D4. Let's try the 20-sided one.
Beautiful.
So that was a good roll for that D6, though. Or the D4.
Or 6. It was whatever it was. It was good for it, whatever that you rolled, but it wasn't enough to do what he had to do, and it definitely would have killed him.
I think he was trying to jump and like save his kid, right? Is that what it is?
Exactly. Yeah.
That was only a little bit of time ago for you. Like it's just 2 years ago. It's fine.
So many years.
So many years. But yeah, Travis, how'd you get into TTRPGs?
I've been playing D&D most of my life since I was like a kid in elementary school. Like one of the first things, I had a really long bus ride to and from school, and I was basically pulled in by one of the older kids in the bus, Julian Ekman, who was just like, hey, do you want to play a game that doesn't involve like us having to do very much, and we can sit here and play this game, and it requires dice. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I was slowly like brought into D&D that way. It was pre-3rd edition. I don't know what we were playing, but it was fun. And then we eventually got into 3rd edition when it came out, and then just sort of stayed with it. And then years and years and years later, I became a podcaster, and we wanted to do a team building exercise for our White Vault podcast before we did a live show, because I'd never met any of these folks, because all the internet people. So I was like, all right, before I meet you guys and stay in a room with you and discover your terrible secrets, maybe we should play a game of D&D first, and I can like figure out how scary you all truly are. So we did that, and it was just going to be like a bonus episode for the White Vault, but it wound up being a bit much and a bit more and a bit more, and we just kind of made it its own thing eventually.
As podcasters do.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly.
That's really exciting. I think that's a really good like bonding exercise, and we talk on this podcast about how D&D really brings people together, and then like allows you to just explore your inner self in like 1,000 different ways. And so, doing it as a team bonding experience really, I mean, it loans itself to it easily.
I agree, and it can be a very safe space. A lot of things have happened as a result of our little games. I don't want to out anyone, but like it's a great place to explore your identity and what you think of yourself. And also, it has formed a relationship between two of the people in real life who are now like living together in Iceland happily, having met through this game, having been like on a show together, but never actually spoken directly to one another. Then they started playing this game, like, oh wow, we get along really well.
Oh my god!
They've been together for like years now, and they're like, yeah, I guess that is it's not very common, but that's pretty cool. So
I feel like that we've had a couple guests like that where they've had games together and then they were just like kind of like testing the grounds and then just like, hey, you want to try something else?
It's very
that's
sweet.
fantastic. Yeah, I love the game and what people are able to do within creative freedom bounds and sort of walk a mile in someone else's shoes. You mentioned earlier before we started the interview that you'd listened to our Pride Month episode, and we subversively are pulling these people who have no idea what LGBT means or anything even beyond that, and we're trying to say like, hey, what if it was just a weird speed dating episode? And speed dating's scary, right? It's terrifying. Let's have a scary thing. And then people are like, oh well, okay. Walking a mile in someone else's shoes, I'm starting to understand what some of these letters mean, what this QIA plus stuff is about. That's pretty neat. And we've gotten quite a few notes from that. We also raised money for the Trevor Project, which is really great. I think $10,000 or something like that. So I enjoy all the things we're doing in that way. And as an improvised show, we're able to kind of get away with a lot more than we would in other spaces and come up with more creatively together than I could if I was scripting it, because I'm just some white dude. So my stories aren't particularly exciting, but you get the others involved and it becomes something really special.
It did. I really think it would be a good tool for somebody to hear who maybe was unfamiliar with using pronouns or using different ideas of just existing in the world. I am very knowledgeable. I felt really knowledgeable. And then I listened to the episode and I was like, oh, like there's still stuff that even I, as somebody in the community, was like, oh, that's right. Like we can also do that. And like, it's totally fine. And it was just really wholesome and sweet, especially, listening to it in the last couple of weeks with all of the turmoil that is the United States Supreme Court, and
Yes.
living through 4th of July for whatever reason was just a lot of fun this year. It was just really nice to hear like, oh, like we're not immediately banning people because they're learning and they're trying and they're messing up or just doing it.
I think the messy was really part of the fun, like having everyone awkwardly get into these sort of speed dates and just try and like navigate through a conversation with someone interesting. It's terrifying for everyone involved, but I think we were able to still be very true to that because it was really terrifying for the people involved.
Yes, it did feel like speed
fun.
dating.
And then we're also getting a bit more into like other elements of like disability and mental health throughout our show as well, which you brought up in your initial email to me. You're like, mental health in D&D. It's like, yes, we love that stuff here. That's exactly what we're all about.
Can you talk about that? Can you go into more detail, or is it an NDA?
Oh, I don't have NDA stuff. We're not that formal here. A number of our players are disabled in ways that are disabilities, and working with, we had to do a lot of rebuilding around our world. I have had a world that I have built for many years, which is, my little homebrew world, which is essentially where everything takes place. But the entire season 1 show takes place in one set of woods with one NPC they encounter once, and then the rest of it's just the players in like chaos in the woods and then caves and stuff. They don't actually go anywhere. So in our follow-up stuff, we're getting involved with like larger politics and cities and towns and civilizations and other people. So preemptively getting into those conversations, we did a lot of consulting with individuals around the world from different backgrounds, different identities, different cultures. So we have put a lot of emphasis on disability in particular, because it would be, our world is very dark. It's very spooky. Humanity is not the apex predator. You've got actual dragons in the skies. You've got monsters in the woods. So like 1 in 4 people realistically would have a disability. of some kind, not necessarily like missing an arm, amputee. That's the one people think like, how would 1 in 4 people, malnutrition is a disability, can become one. Being hard of hearing, being deaf completely. These are normal everyday things. Mental health, things that like ADHD is considered a disability by some and is, or can be, I should say. So we've had a lot of fun building the world better, sharper, stronger with all these different perspectives, trying to really hit markers for inclusion and things of that nature. So it doesn't just become, welcome to Tolkien's Middle Earth. Before, I guess, Amazon took it over, where everybody is pretty similar, and it might have unintentional racist tones to it, but unintentionally perhaps.
That's fine.
Without getting political about it, we put a lot of effort into really building it. And that's a lot of me saying many words to say very little.
No, and I think that because we talk about that, right? How do we make this game better to fit the world that actually exists? How do we build this game to better include everybody? And then maybe getting off of the Wizards of the Coast train and not using that as the be all end all of what this game looks like or could look like.
Yeah, I worked with James Mendez-Hodes, who works on Avatar: The Last Airbender as a consultant and like the pen and paper game. They wrote a really great let's tackle orcs, because James is a huge fan of various types of orcs from all different walks of life, and they've been interpreted many different ways in many different worlds. And the way we took it is super weird. We just had our first orc character. They're generally pacifistic because they've kind of grown out of their phase of being warlike. Like it's past that point in time that most people are like, oh yeah, they're all warlike. But no, they're kind of, they've grown beyond that. And it makes for an interesting dynamic. They're more subterranean, they're a bit more bat-like, and basically taking different parts of lore from orcs that we liked from other things, and then saying like, okay, well, let's look at this from a biological perspective. Let's watch a lot of Planet Earth and Blue Planet and Green Planet and go crazy with this. So what would their anatomy look like, but how can we still make them feel like orcs? Maybe their skin isn't green, maybe their fur isn't green. Let's give them some short fur like bats. And then maybe they dye it green because they're putting dyed mud on their skin, because when they come up from the surface, they don't want to get sunburn, because that's something that could easily happen. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, let's develop that more. So we've been doing things like that. Elves having, what's it called? There's a moment in time where you evolve as a species. Certain bugs do this. And this one word that I'm forgetting right now, we've got with elves. So spontaneously at the age of puberty, their bodies slightly modify in unique ways toward the occupation they're looking to get into. So they might be a bit more resistant to heat and get some scales a little bit. They might become more, there's different subspecies or sub-races of elf. The ones that are subterranean, the ones that are Arctic, the ones that are more arboreal, the ones that are more in the ocean. And D&D has these. So at the age of puberty, basically, you can kind of branch off toward the one that you're moving toward. And it's a bit divine, it's a bit natural, a bit heavily thought through, watching a lot of Animal Planet and looking at what bugs are actually doing when they can change the different colorations for predators and such based on where they're living and located. So we've got a really weird route with world building. And that was all with Jennifer Kretschmer, who's also our disability consultant and is fantastic, or one of ours. So.
I love that, because then that even you can find the storyline of either someone has gone through puberty and they have these traits, but they didn't want these traits, or maybe they wanted something else. And then how do we go about that? Or, you're just accept whatever divine intervention came in and gave you these new scales or I want to say body parts, but it feels weird to say body parts.
It's less like that extreme. We did want to make sure that it was still like, okay, this person is identifiably like the elf that people would think of, but they're sometimes more subtle in ways. So again, you think of the drow, you think of the wood elves, you think of the high elves. So kind of moving toward one of those, but maybe also you get an additional bonus of being able to see in the dark because you're a hunter, or maybe you have vision that allows you to see further than others, like an eagle, for instance, because they have an actual god looking over them that they're supposed to be working for with their eternal lives to keep the great balance to some degree. Some of them. It's been getting weird is what I'm trying to get into. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. It's I mean, to me, this creative process is very beautiful. It's very messy, but once you get it refined, it becomes something like, I can't wait to tell the world kind of thing.
Absolutely. And it's weird because we're telling a very limited story where like some characters they just got out of the woods like, you know, like 3 months ago IRL, and this game we've been playing forever and recorded many years ago. But it's like they just got out of the woods, so I can finally start to like, you know, introduce an orc or introduce some elves or interview, you know, Jeff played our first elf, Balmer, and it was really fun to have a wild elf on the team. And then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna sing a elven woodcutting song. And they're like, okay, that sounds great. Let's do it. Elves now have woodcutting songs. Let's add that to the lore. And then players also add stuff too. And they'll give us ideas and say like, okay, yeah, okay, that's now a thing. Okay, let's add that to it. That's fun. Like a lot of the dwarven stuff, for instance.
I think that's amazing. I think at the very beginning of the game, playing Dungeons and Dragons, I always thought I have to be ready for everything. All the lore needs to be thought out, and you know it has to be done before I can present it to somebody. And I did that my first couple of rounds, and it was like people would just fall off and not want to play. And I'm like, oh, I developed all this. Since then, it's been more like, what do we want to play? Not what world do I want to create? What do we want to do together? Things they ask questions I don't even consider while world making, or their actions like, yeah, I have this, and I'm like, yeah, sure, you have that. I don't care.
Exactly.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I've developed my way of DMing to more accommodate this being a collective storytelling thing instead of this is what we're gonna do and y'all get to play in it. It's more like, this is what we're going to do, and if you want to do something else, we can do something else. It's a very different dynamic than when I was started out with, which is meticulous notes, and now it's almost no notes and everything's in head until the words come out.
I really love that, and I would echo that that's a really great way to play, and especially at home games. Our reason for having to do so much reverse engineering and world building actually stems from not a cease and desist, but a very interesting conversation we had with Hasbro, the parent, or Hasbro's sister company, parent company thing. They're like their legal department after we made a bit too much press. So they're like, are you using any of our trademarks or intellectual property? I'm like, you're talking about 8 people who've been in the woods. No. Like you don't own the fantasy woods. So no, we haven't touched any of your, or infringed on any of your IP. Everything's cool, kosher. And now that we're like expanding, it's like, okay, well, let's make sure we don't touch any of their stuff. Let's be extra careful. So it's been, not that they told us not to, but I just want to make sure that we don't run afoul ever for any reason.
We don't want those conversations.
Exactly. Healthy.
That is wild. Hasbro trying to just take the woods and say all of these things.
Well, no. Like we received some press for a certain person joining our game at a time where they were announcing their movie, and the press for a certain person joining our game did really, really well. It became a full-time job for myself and my wife for 5 days, just replying to emails we were getting and texts and tweets and messages on a nonstop basis, doing only that and like sleeping on 4-hour shifts, because it was a bit overwhelming for a few days there. The story kind of blew up because we don't have a PR team. And then people were like, oh, we'd like to do an interview. Okay, we'll set up the interview with me. Like, okay, I'll be mother-in-law's sewing closet and I'll be recording there. Let's do this. So it was a lot of like that sort of stuff for days. And then all of a sudden, hey, this is Hasbro's legal team. We want to talk to you about some stuff. Who are you? Like, because a lot of people on the internet thought we were from LA, or we're big money, or we're doing this for years, or we were some new show that hadn't done anything, and we were just doing this for whatever reason to work with, like, kind of be a Critical Role knockoff. Like, no, we've been around for years. You've just never heard of us. So it was an interesting to kind of like get the narrative to be accurate to where we are, and that was quite fun. But then also to like explain to like Wizards the same sort of stuff, the parent company Hasbro, the legal department thing. So it was a unique situation that I don't want to repeat. Yeah.
That's fair. I understand. Because then you've got a group of people who are like, this sounds almost familiar, but like without the full understanding or comprehension of what y'all are in this, like in the real world, like what it is. Like they're all going to sound the same. Listen, we're going to say elf, and we could talk about all of these elves. We could talk about all of these things that are going to sound similar because we're all human. And we've all remarked on the fact that different cultures, different civilizations all seem to have the same sort of idea of how things go. So it's still gonna happen in the real, like it's gonna happen forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, I really love lawyers right now. I have some feelings about everybody.
It's nothing bad happened. It was just just a discussion, a friendly discussion. No one. What was the phrase from Zoolander? It was just a friendly gasoline fight. Harmless little gasoline fight.
I had a question about, you said you do like sound editing for the other show. Is this like editing or like Foley artist or?
All of the above. So I will scout stuff from the internet. I'll purchase sound packs because recording wind is just terrible. I don't wish it upon anyone because wind by nature just destroy.
Exactly.
It sounds terrible.
Wow.
But people do it, and it sounds awesome, much better than me. And then occasionally I'll go into the wild with an H8 or an H6 or an H4 back in the day, depending on the upgrade in the year, and I'll record some sounds of rivers or mines or jungles or the beaches of Iceland, those sorts of things, or elevators, escalators, people talking in a bar, whatever I need. I'll get those sounds in the wild. And then like, okay, we're doing a scene where people find a stone box and inside the box there's a human heart and some teeth. Okay, got it. I could do that. So we got the stone, they break it open, we got the human teeth. The human teeth are now making noise. All right, I can do that. And then I'll put my teeth back in the jar. And that's that. So, like whatever they need, I'll do it. Most of it's just brushing a coat for dramatic tension. Like you'll hear it on Dark Dice a lot. Every time Glom in season 2 moves, he squeaks every time because he's just very bulky. He's wearing all this leather armor. But also whenever Soren speaks, he's got like a very particular type of Foley that I'll do for him because he's very ethereal. So I do like a lot of like whooshing noises. So anytime you'll, not a big whooshing noise, but just like a subtle of like cloth. So when he pulls out his lantern, and the crinking noise of the lantern, which is metal somewhere over there that I got to grab, all those pieces come together. It's what I do. It's a lot of fun.
That's beautiful. That's a whole like other layer to what we just talk on this podcast, but I help edit another one, and it's just like that's a second layer to what we already do, and it's like, man, that's intense. How long does it take to find the right sound sometimes? I know it can probably be like, oh, I got lucky on a Google search, or I've got to go out into the wild and record something. Like, what's been the longest time it took you to find a certain sound?
Polar bear audio was a real pain in the butt. We had to actually get some. Because polar bears sound different than grizzly bears, which is what National Geographic and other, like, anytime you hear a polar bear on TV, it's not a polar bear. It's a grizzly pitch down. And when you actually hear a real polar bear, it is a very scary, scary, scary thing. And the difference is over 500 pounds of weight. And that weight translates to sound, and that sound translates to terror. Having recorded some of that stuff, I was not directly recording that particular polar bear, but I was able to get that audio from someone who did. And, the first one, it's kind of far away, roaring. The next one, it's a little bit closer, roaring. The third one's like, the sound designer getting eaten. But, the sound of that bear was incredible. And I was actually going to go record Nora the polar bear at one of the zoos. I think it was in Utah. So I was setting up trips for that. But then the enclosure for Nora was also too loud. So it would have too much artifacting from the various music they play at the zoo or the water features in the enclosure, or if it was in the back, it would be very echoey. So it'd sound like, you're out in the wild, a polar bear roars, but the roar echoes a bunch of times inside this steel enclosure. But you're getting the right audio can be a pain. That was the worst. Seconded would be the another animal one, Andean condor, because there's like less than 7,000 in the world. And those things are really endangered, and they don't make noises like a bird. They hiss and they growl and they gurgle. It's a weird, creepy noise, and we needed a lot of it. And that was a pain to find. Getting outside of animals, dropping a camera was from like one story down and catching it, having someone else catch it was a pain. And then crawling through an air duct on Vast Horizon, which is a sci-fi epic we do. I actually wound up pulling my little recorder through our air duct with a string for one layer, and then like tapping on metal with my hands on another layer, but her hands are metal because she's a triple amputee. So it's like one hand was my hand, the other one was my hand in a metal glove, like patting this sort of metal bowls to get the duct moving sounds as I scare the dogs. Anything.
We get an
Little-
appearance.
Wisp of cocoa. So like that's the stuff I love to do, and it's usually painful, but takes time, and I love it.
That's the most beautiful dog I've ever seen.
She's like a fox. She disappears and appears.
Oh my gosh. I'm so blessed. We were blessed by the doggo. This is now this is now a Coco Stan podcast.
Account.
Oh my god.
That's good. She doesn't speak English, so I have to translate.
Oh my goodness. I'm
That's-
obsessed.
I think that type of soundscaping is something I've been like looking into, but it's gonna cost a lot of more time than usual.
The Dark Dice combats are like easily hours of my time for like a 3-minute combat. Hours. Because it's like every time I describe, like, okay, here's a thing. Someone's doing a thing. Sound of doing a thing. Like picking up a bow, pulling back the bow, releasing the bow, the arrow flying through, the arrow hitting something, the arrow, like the blood reaction to being hit, or the impact sound of like hitting something, the person probably screaming in the background getting hit. Maybe dropping a weapon. Like that's 4 seconds or less right there of audio that has to be Foleyed. And a lot of
hard work for like snippets of time.
yeah.
How do you feel that balance is out in your life? Like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, finding the right sound, putting it to the podcast, putting it to whatever action is happening, even though it's a lot of work, how do you feel that payback is just for your own life? Like,
I wouldn't listen to the show without it. So I straight up, like, we'd be boring. I think without the immersion that we bring, you would not really care about the characters, because it would be like people around a table sounding scary instead of people being in the woods sounding scary, or, you know, wherever they wind up going on their adventures. Having all these tricks that I use to bring you and transport you from the imaginary internet table that we were at to those places is really what makes us a good show.
Adrian, your Texas is showing. The sky is screaming.
It's my computer.
Oh, it's
one
not-
of the fans is just gonna.
Oh. I thought it was a cicada.
No.
Every 4 years.
It did hail like 3 days ago, which is
It
we
hailed?
didn't have snow. It hailed, yeah. In the middle
I
of
love hail.
July, or the beginning of July, end of June.
That's
Ridiculous.
fantastic.
We didn't get snow this year, but we got hail this summer.
We get snow, hail, rain, and sunshine in the same day.
Yeah.
We're in the mountains. It's like, oh, okay, all the things. Let's do it.
Yep. Adrian and I used to live in a city in West Texas. It has been voted. I don't know who did the voting, and I don't know what the population was, but it is voted worst weather in the United States, where you literally could wake up and you have snow on the ground, and then it's windy, and then it's 100 degrees. Like, I've had days where I've had literally all 4 seasons in one day.
I actually kind of prefer that, to be honest. I lived in Florida for 30 years, and I've just had summer.
Okay. Look, Florida's different.
Just in general different, not just weather, but just a general
it's
aspect
like
is
Australia.
different.
Where in Florida did you live?
South of Tampa is the drug overdose capital of the U.S., Bradenton, and that's where I was. Number
My
one.
life giver lives in Tampa.
Perfect.
That is a mess. It's the whole that whole side is a situation.
It has some nice pockets, and it's got like Sarasota, which is the circus arts town, but no one can really afford to live there. But then you've got like, you know, other stuff too. Some really nice beaches. #1 beach, Siesta Key, voted #1 in like I guess a couple years, not necessarily sequentially, but it's the Powder Sand Beach. Others as well. But yeah, definitely.
So what got you into music? Because I know you've got a musical background.
I was in Orlando's #1 rock band for 10 years. Random Encounter, playing video game rock music on accordion, which is a lot of goofiness.
Beautiful.
And then,
It's a lot to unpack right there in that one statement.
yeah, we actually toured with Video Games Live briefly. We did a few tours in the US, EU, UK. I started another band called Careless Juja on the internet. We would just record stuff. That was a lot of fun too, and we're still doing that. It outlived the band because live shows are very taxing on daily life. So that's kind of my background. I was doing singer-songwriter, arranger, performer stuff for a while, crowd surfing and trying not to break my knees. And then eventually we started doing the Dark Dice soundtrack, and I wanted to get back into music a bit. And we put way too much effort into it. But it really felt like it was worth it. And I wanted to capture a very specific type of sound, not using modern instruments, keeping to that sort of fantasy vibe, a bit Witcher, a bit Diablo-ish to some degree, Matthew Ullman's sort of trippy vibes. And I think we achieved that over the course of the 2 or 3 hours of music we've got. We're about to release an album later this year, before August. We have a new album coming out. Another hour of music.
Yes. It's so good.
Excited.
Listen, Adrian, you don't even have to listen to Dark Dice. Just go listen to like the background.
I will.
I mean, listen, I know. But like,
I just got all these other podcasts with people we've had on, and like we're splitting the thing. Like we gotta know some people.
but the description of like how they create the music for their podcast is amazing. Like it's just breaking it down and finding animal sounds that fit, but like changing the animal sounds.
I forgot about those.
Oh my god, it was my favorite part.
We do sneak in animal sounds. We sneak in all the satanic things that the Satanic Panic sort of warn you about. We try to sneak those into our music because I lost some friends during that. I'm a little bit old. I wasn't able to play D&D with all my friends. We actually got an orchestra and a choir now, and we've got some famous composers working on this next one that you, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, may or may not know of, but I haven't announced it yet, so I can't say too much more. But we're working with a composer from that franchise, and we'll be announcing that very shortly.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yes, come for the horror, stay for the hurdy-gurdy. Actual play, actual horror.
What a line. Come for the horror, stay for the hurdy-gurdy. I love that. Absolutely.
Oh, we also have our musical episode. It's like a 24-minute season 1 summarized into 24 minutes as a musical. If you're not going to listen to the whole thing and you've got like a half hour, it's worth checking out. It's on our Patreon for like $5. It's worth it. And it's got Jeff Goldblum as the silent one. Beautifully well done. Because the silent one is our shapeshifter that steals everyone's voices. So we thought, who better than, do you seek him?
Yes, we do.
It's quite fun. And one of those tracks will be also on the album. Meet the cultist, Cole, because it's quite adorable. Little moments that we sneak in there.
I'm obsessed. I love it all.
I don't know. It sounds so beautiful. All these things, these parts coming together. It's not just like, how at this point, like Critical Role and Dimension 20 are all very productions. This sounds like a productions I've seen like Let's Plays and just very like, hey, you can hear their editing getting better over time with these newer, like younger podcasts, and like having it become like your podcast being like, hey, listen, it's going to take a while for us to keep episodes up, but man, did we put work in. It's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. And then if I could also, this is my selling point, right? So Critical Role, their first episode is like 4 hours. Our first season is less than, I think, like it's not long. Episodes are like 30 minutes each. It's pretty short. So it's not a huge time investment to enjoy the entirety of the stories that we've put together. And they are worth going through, in my opinion. And we don't necessarily improve over time because I've gone back and we remixed and remastered the first episode. Mm-hmm. So it pretty much starts at like a 10 and keeps you there going forward. I'd like to think that anyway. But I haven't listened in a bit.
I could have
as a consumer. No, you are not allowed to re-record. You, Adrian, are not allowed to re-record. It is art. You produced it. It stays out in the world. And
my next project.
You don't get. Yeah, not Trav. Don't listen to Travis right now. He's not helping you. Okay, Travis is a professional.
I would recommend never doing that, but we actually, our first episode was mixed wrong. We had a different mixing engineer, and like all the levels were completely different from we switched mixing engineers really early on, and that one just sounded so different from the rest. And I was like, it's quite terrible by comparison. I must go back and redo this and make this sound like the others. So we did, and added a few sound effects.
Nice.
See,
and a few songs.
legitimate reason, not.
I could add a song to our Talkback podcast if I wanted to.
But I always recommend making new stuff.
Gotcha.
No. Make new stuff. But what I was saying is, it's a weird way, when you go back, and I don't know why we've gone to a lot of museums in the last 6 months, but I've been in a lot of museum kick, and like, how are what we're doing right now going to survive, generations from now? And I really like the idea of these very classical instruments and the way that we have music like continuing through the generations through something like Dungeons and Dragons and podcasting. I really like that. Makes my brain just tingle in all of the different ways that newer students to D&D are going to be able to hear really neat instruments, where it's kind of sad to hear that they're just going to continue to dwindle if people aren't learning how to play them, and then they're just going to sit in museums and never get played.
As an accordionist, I agree with you. Yeah. And we also make sure Hurdy Gurdy and hammered dulcimers are sort of forefront in everything we make. I really love the instruments, and they're delightful.
I love the hammered dulcimer. I love it so much.
Yes. But another thing that's kind of interesting, we'll be doing a live stream on our Twitch, twitch.tv/Fool and Scholar on August 12th and the 24th with a guest composer who I can't name yet because we haven't announced him yet, from Japan, who will be on our stream joining us as we record 18 minutes of music that he wrote for us. We'll be recording choir, again, singing different songs. One's to the god of greed. It's a beautiful, insidious thing about like wanting more. And this god of greed is not a bad god. He's the giving god. He gives you, but you always want more. And that's kind of like what it's about. And then we got like another one that's, our home, Vernasco, Great Vernasco, the city that watches over us. It's a fort. It's a mountain fort looking over us. Various other songs, again, in Infernal, Icelandic, German. I'll have all three of those for it. We've also got a brass section for the first time we'll be recording, and then the strings section, 40 strings, all being recorded in tandem in 3 different sessions on those 2 days. Me freaking out the entire time that we're behind schedule, because we will be. And one of the songs I actually wrote, which I'm quite proud of, or co-wrote. So that's my first original written thing on my own there. But yes, feel free to join in and see how the stuff is made and maybe inspire you, because we didn't think, I would never envisioned we'd work with those groups, but like, you don't know till you ask. Like that's the thing. And like, okay, well, could we do that? How does that work? What do we need to make this happen? And then now, last October we were in Budapest recording with them. So it's like, okay, well, we're kind of doing the same thing again. Let's do it.
So I'm going to take a guess that through this musical career you used to have, is that how you made all these connections with all these different avenues of music?
Yeah, a lot of it that way. Other people I really admired, or I've asked like, okay, how do I get in touch with this person? David Wise wrote Donkey Kong Country. How do I get in touch with David Wise? I would like to work with David on a song. And David sent an email through a friend who knows David, who's worked with David. It's like, yeah, of course, let's make that happen. Of course, David wants to write the North Realm region of your world, because our soundtrack is broken up by region. So it's every space has a different composer and tied together and looped. So like David Wise is our North Realm. So it's the cold, it's him. It feels so Donkey Kong Country. Like it's really good. We had to pull a little bit back from that so it wasn't too friendly, and we got a little bit of crept in a little bit of terror and spookiness into it. But it was so good, and so many layers, and he's a delightful perfectionist. He sits on a piece of music for weeks just kind of thinking about it and pondering the meaning and what can go into it. And we really went back and forth with that. Stephen Malin, the person who really was spearheading that part of the project and making it possible, just to make that 5 minutes of music sound as amazing as it does. And we're excited to share it in our upcoming season, as we're in season 2 now, moving through it pretty quickly.
Going into my own realm. Sorry. That's freaking awesome. These connections, is there a connection that was hard to get to, but you were so excited to like reach out to them?
Yeah, that's basically everybody. Like, I don't expect I expect nobody to say yes. Like Cecil from Night Vale was on our Pride Month episode. I just like Instagram direct message, and the response was, I'm just going to quote, I don't know if cursing's okay on this. You could bleep me out.
Go ahead.
It's like, well, I'm doing fuck all. Like it's COVID and we're not touring. I'm like, great, let's have fun. That was the exact response, like word for word. It was wonderful, and he was a joy to work with. We also, same thing with Jeff, like sent the email out like, oh yeah, Jeff Goldblum, it'd be really fun to play D&D with Jeff Goldblum. What are the odds? Never came back with a no. What? Suddenly like, okay, we're recording on this day. Nobody's stopping us. Okay, let's full steam ahead.
No PR team, no secretary, nothing. Just like, yeah, this keeps going.
Well, I didn't get to announce it till like the week before the episode came out, and that was, I didn't know if and when I'd be able to. And then I was like, okay, the story can go. And then like the story went out, and I was like, they're probably not going to release this at all. Suddenly Deadline is like, yeah, let's talk about this. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, what is happening? And then it kept sort of spiraling more and more and avalanching out of control in the fun way. But it's interesting to see these things develop. I'm always really excited. We just worked with the voice of Ainzul Gone, Christopher Guerrero, the US voice of Ainzul Gone from Overlord, one of my favorite animes. He was on our show twice in 2 episodes, which was on our Wild Sheep Chase and Wizard Battle episodes. He was the wizard. It was so cool. Like, and I wasn't expecting a response. I was thrilled that he responded. He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay, guys. Like, that was quite fun. Anytime you want to work again, let's just do this. It's like, great. You're amazing. I love you. Thank you. Season 4 of Overlord just dropped. I'm waiting for your version because I want to hear it dubbed because you're so fun. Yeah.
You have that personal connection now.
Yeah, even before I was still a fan.
Yeah.
But every new connection we make, I feel, is just as interesting and exciting. Though maybe perhaps just as difficult, because the hardest part is like setting up an email and finding where to send it and then sending it and clicking the send button. Like, I think it's good enough to go out.
And not staring at it for 20 minutes and saying, I sound like an idiot. Let me just Twitter DM. Maybe he'll ignore it and then not say anything. And then that'll be fine too.
Yeah. Like even our cultist, our one NPC in the show, like Cole, who's an innocent trapper, he claims. Like, that's Eric Nelson. Like, he liked a thing I did on Instagram. And I was like, Eric Nelson, who's the youngest person who's ever won an Emmy, like, for all my children. He's also on like Yellowstone. Interested in being on a podcast? Like, sure. Like, okay, that's great. Let's do this. So yes, the sky's the limit, and it can always be really fun and interesting. And yeah, rant over.
No, that was a beautiful rant. Listen, we have a whole episode dedicated to shooting your shot, and if this is not just a reminiscent of that, shoot your shot. The only person that's going to tell you no is somebody else, and then you can go ask somebody else, and maybe they'll say yes, and most likely everyone's going to say yes because we're all wanting some sort of connection and to do cool things in our life. So just do it.
Absolutely. And Adrian, I know you might actually listen, so I do want to warn you, it does get actually quite dark. We go through themes of mental health quite deeply from a place of like respect and a lot of firsthand knowledge there and experience. And we also get into like the physical body horror stuff. We get into the creepy, combat-y, if you're actually stabbing a human being, it's actually quite a scary situation to be in, right?
No, I've got experience with the dark part of mental health, okay? Like, I've been there, done that crisis response stuff that I have to do for my job. So, like,
Thank you.
Dark stuff doesn't bother me as much since I've seen it in the real world.
It's my life.
And I'm no stranger to what it looks like because I've experienced it and I've seen people experience it in those day-to-days. Those ideas of like, I'm not good enough, like seeping into their person, their personality, and how either a crisis or just a routine like meeting, I have to like tell them all these things, and then like when I get back to my real life, like, but that doesn't apply to me. So like, I fully understand the darkness things can get, and I enjoy it, and I know what it looks like and feels like, and I'm just like, when people are like, I don't understand, I'm like, that's good. You shouldn't need to, but
Exactly. I don't having like I for some reason when I see stuff I get more upset having experienced something sometimes, but there's a lot of unreliable narration taking place too, and that has upset a couple of listeners, and I think it's quite fun. But because I warn you going into it, but I would like to make sure that you're aware you are going to be lied to, because it's not from the perspective of the world, it's from the perspective of 6 people who are kind of losing their minds in the dark, and it's quite fun in that way.
That did change me thinking about how to DM, because I always want to tell the truth. I always want to be honest. I don't want to mislead people, right? That's not my MO in my day-to-day life. But when you start thinking about yourself as explaining, you as the DM explaining what characters are seeing, you don't necessarily have to tell the truth. They could be passing their checks. They could not be passing their checks. There does not have to be a clear, definitive, this is what's going on, this is the capital T truth. You can lie to your players.
Absolutely. But with, of course, consent, like making sure they're all buying into like the horror and all that stuff, and making sure you're aware of what they do and don't like. But yeah, it is quite fun.
All right, we hit the hour mark. Does anyone have
Adrian,
any? Yes.
Do you have any other questions?
Oh, you want to? Okay, you turned the question on me. I feel like there was one question, but as someone who always does the hour mark thing, I didn't have it prepared. Give me a second. In doing this podcast, have you slowly changed your way of DMing since the beginning?
In what sense? Like,
because I know it's heavily edited. I'm saying, like, is there anything? How about this? This is a better one, I guess. Have you learned anything since starting to where you are now, presenting this game to your players?
That's tough. If I have, I don't remember because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
He's always been an amazing DM. That's what he's trying to say.
No.
This is beautifully orchestrated.
A lot has happened. I put a lot of trust into my players, and I think the biggest change for me is just, I'll use a super easy, obvious one while trying to stop a dog from kicking himself in the face. Just scratch his nose. There you go. Go to bed. Sleep. I had to change the tense in what I was doing, because we released, recorded the first session, and it sounded pretty cool. And then my wife is like the writer between the two of us. She's the scholar. She writes all the stuff that I make, because we're a 2-person company and doing all these horror shows, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. But I'm not the writer. And she's like, okay, I'm going to do your first episode's transcripts and like edit it differently. And then she changed to past tense. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah. She's yes, past tense, because you're telling a story. This is you, the narrator, telling a story of what's happened in the past. So suddenly I had to re-record everything in past tense. And then season 2 forward, I'm recording in past tense. And it changes the table feel a bit to say things like, so-and-so did this, instead of like, so-and-so is going to do this, and then rolls the dice. It's like, that would require a perception check. They failed their perception check and took 5 stress damage, knowing that they did not know what was in the darkness. Whatever you want to do there. But like, it became a bit more dramatic. It became a bit more fun. That was delightful. I also prep and over-prep way too much. So I can't really say how much has changed as a DM, because I write descriptions for everything because I have no mind's eye. So fairly minimal there. But I've learned a whole lot and grown a lot, but not in any way that I can really quantify too easily or distill into a soundbite.
Hi. Sounds good.
How dare you not have that prepared?
I know. I know.
Okay, how was working with... I don't want to just ask one. I want to ask both of them.
Go for it. All right, we'll do this. We've got it.
How was working with Ashley? Is she a gem in real life?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a weird, like, mutual friend situation. Ash is not on Dark Dice. That's Liberty Vigilance under the Liberty podcast feed, which is also ridiculously fun and very similar, but sci-fi. Ash is super cool. The conversation started with like, hi, we know this person who's on our podcast in like a fun way as like one of the NPCs. He's a barista. He's just a barista he's afraid of the police, unrealistically afraid of the police. Would you like to be on that same show? It's going to be fun. And Critical Role hadn't taken off as much yet, I don't think, or Ash wasn't on Critical Role yet at the time, I don't believe. And it's like, sure, let's do it. So like suddenly I went from talking to this agent who's like, who are you and how is this possible? Like, okay, you know this person? I'm going to run this by Ash. Okay, Ash says yes, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, like, booth, we're talking. Like, oh, by the way, how do you say these words? Because we want to make sure we get these right. Super cool. Okay, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm trying not to fanboy. Let's. And then like, you know, she's saying stuff and I'm trying to like to keep everything straight and not get distracted as I do. But yeah, that was quite fun. That was a good person and I would work with again, 10 out of 10.
I don't understand where you're coming from at all. I don't understand fangirling and no. And then how's working with Jeff? Is he amazing? Please tell me he's amazing. Okay.
Absolutely. Good. Yeah. He is so fun and brilliant. I know a lot of people say, you know, they'll make fun of Jeff and like stutter all the time. He doesn't stutter. It's just when you watch people on TV, it's unrealistically, unnaturally smooth, unlike conversations. And he's very real. So in his real discussions, I see a lot more than him. He's so delightful and everything very open to new ideas and a brilliant improviser and musician. And like, you know, his tablet dies and all of a sudden we're all singing together an Elven woodcutting theme. What do you do with that? That's gold. So and we added music behind it too. Yeah, it's so fun. He's just very knowledgeable and a solid improviser and fun person to be around. He was also he knew us. It was like, what? Like, it's like, oh, where's Caitlin? She's not here today. Her character's not here, but like, can I say hi? Like, okay. So Caitlin, like, she's hiding next to the door, you know, because she didn't want you to know that she was listening in. Like, Caitlin, get over here. So
I would die. I think I would literally just right there, just on the floor.
It was so cool. Same. I somehow passed my death saving throw and did not die from petrification or otherwise. And we had a grand time and recorded a lot of content. So I'm excited to share more soon.
Yay. Adrian, did you remember your question?
No, that's just all. It's gone. So be it. As the brain does, something else will replace it. It's fine. Where can they find you, Travis?
At Dark Dice Pod, DARKDICEPOD is all of our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. On Twitch, it's Fool and Scholar spelled out. And then if you just Google Dark Dice or darkdice.com, you'll find us. We're there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to be added to your podcast subscription feed. And again, it's not a huge obligation of time, and it's not half bad.
I would definitely recommend it. If you listen to anything that I have to say, that's it. It's very good. And I don't like horror things, so I think that gives it a little extra special. It's good enough to get over the creepy body horror parts.
Delightful. And then also we occasionally have some really nice, lovely, friendly moments that'll really break your heart.
As all good storytelling does. Within its chaos.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, dear listener, for joining us on another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. If you enjoy all of this banter, you can find us on all of our social medias at Dungeons and Degrees. We are also trying to grow our Discord server, so feel free to join us on the Discord server where you too can ask questions to our guests when we remember to post that we are talking to certain people. One day we'll remember on time. This is not that day. Also, if you were like, no, that's not enough, Alex, what else can I do? I have all these dollar bills in my pockets. What can we do with them? You, dear listener, can go on to patreon.com/Dungeons and Degrees and throw money at us to help us continue growing and educating and all the good stuff that we have brought to you so far, we will be able to continue to bring to you, even in this post-apocalyptic world. Our benefits include ad-free episodes, early episodes, one-shots, pencils, stickers. For every person that we have on our Patreon, we will also be donating to our charity of choice. Last month, we will be donating to something, which we're going to cut that because I got ahead of myself.
This is not you forgetting anything. This is the part where it didn't happen.
This is the part where I forgot to make a donation, which we will be doing next episode. Thanks. I'll let you know. I'm also trying to load the patron list while I'm talking because I forgot to do that before we started.
I can dance. I mean, it's not going to make it to the podcast, but I can buy you some time.
Also, please remember that once we hit, I don't remember how many likes or views, Adrian owes us an interpreted dance. So please share.
5K. I'm looking at
5K.
it. It's 3.6 right now.
We're like almost there too. Yeah,
I know.
Please share this podcast to your friends and enemies.
It was a joke before we got to like 1K, and now it's slowly becoming a reality.
It's a thing. But I do want to shout out our patrons, Melissa, Skylar, Megan, Alex, Wani, Lucy, Guy, and our ever beautiful Paige. You could be like them too and help support our dreams to talk to everybody in the universe of Dungeons and Dragons.
Pretty much. It's a hit list.
It's a hit list at this point, yeah.
Not the killing kind, like top 10 hits. Anyways.
No. We will be killing every guest afterwards. Sorry.
Instead of kill every monster, kill every guest.
Don't answer the door, Travis.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. My name's Adrian.
And I'm Alex.
And I'm Travis.
Go have some fun.